Network's international podcast. We are on flight 10,001, baby. Yeah. Woohoo. Man, it's been what, 10,000 episodes now? Nah, I'm just getting 101 right now, baby. We just went by episode 100, which was a lot of fun, man. We had awesome, great guests on the show. It was a lot of fun, a lot of turbulence, and hey. Luke was here joining us again tonight for another awesome episode. The man who is the leader of the Midweek Mix-Up Club. The man who's been out there slaying with his axe and his mighty Thor hammer. The rumors, Mr. Wandering Dutch. How you doing, sir? What you been playing?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Yeah, I was meant to be here last week, but honestly, I was absolutely exhausted from work, so I apologise for not coming for the 100th episode. But I'm here for crowning the new season, episode 101. So it's I'm good. I'm just sitting here with the play game option on Rebirth staring us in the face on screen. So it's no, I've been good. I've been jumping back into flight sim recently, so I've been having fun on that and chilling and looking up new World War II planes to download. And but yeah, other than that, I've been making sure I've finished off the Final Fantasies I needed to before Rebirth comes out. So yeah, that's me. How are you chaps doing?
Mr. Dutch, we've been doing awesome. And fantastic. And speaking about awesome, our sexy, handsome Captain Silent Cypher. How are you doing today, sir? What have you been playing?
I'm doing pretty good. I haven't played very much recently. I'm a fraud this week. But I'll be honest, I actually did a deep dive with the family. We were playing some Guitar Hero and some Rock Band this last weekend. So that's been the main thing I've played recently.
Which Guitar Hero though?
So we played some Guitar Hero 2 and we played some Rock Band 2.
2 is the GOAT.
See, here's the only... Okay, I won't go into it too deep, but the pause. The thing that sucks is Guitar Hero 2 does not have a really good calibration tool for the 360 when you move to more modern TVs. So that is one thing that I found that's kind of a struggle, is like getting those calibrations set just right is a little tricky on that one. The Rock Bands, I feel like they did better with it, but I think it's mainly because most of those came out when we had those more modern TVs. But it's still so good. Like, even if it's kind of a pain to adjust a little bit, it's so much fun to go back to and play those games. It makes me wish that we had a more modern version of it. And maybe someday. But no, I'm super stoked to be hanging out with you guys. Dutch, I was sad that you weren't here with us last week, but this is even better because now we get to spend a little more time with you. So this is awesome. Thank you for coming to hang out with us and tolerate our shenanigans.
And speaking about shenanigans, the handsome Lionel Richie wannabe and who wants the Boston Celtics to win, which they will fail in the playoffs, Sourblow. How are you doing, sir? And what have you been playing?
All right, how you gonna? No, you can't just say that. Come on, man, you can't jinx my team. But anyway, I've been playing a lot of Mass Effect. I'm up to like over 125 hours of Mass Effect 2. So really enjoying that game. And this Monday, I started playing with Elvio from Xbox International en Español and 2 other teammates we found. And we started a game called GTFO. And been having a blast with that game. You know, that game is it's pretty. It was pretty hard. It's pretty hard so far. So, but we've been having a blast. We've been yelling at each other. I even broke my headphones.
What?
I don't know. I just tried to adjust them and I broke them. They're right here.
So you broke your headphones, and that's the fantastic crew you were talking about or bragging. Elvio, you serious? You couldn't
No,
say
well,
Lou. Oh Lord, how the hell you broke those headphones? I mean, seriously, what's wrong with you?
oh man, but no, I had a blast. You know, we're gonna see. Hopefully, this week, this upcoming week, we're able to get past the first level because we
Oh,
did it. We
you,
got to the very end, and then we just got killed by a swarm of of those
because,
creatures. But
because you didn't invite Crazy Lou. That's why you didn't want to get him in your
Lou,
crew. That's okay. Yeah.
That's
why are
why
you
they
so
survived
sensitive?
as long as they did.
Why am I so sensitive, man? You were like, I got my crew. My crew's a sheesnney. You
Even
suck. I was like, what?
even
I
get your
did not
foot
say
stuck
that.
in a poop bucket and you're gonna kill
Actually, I
the whole
did play
team in the
another game
process.
with Louis the other day. Did
Woohoo!
hell
We
let
did. Oh,
Oh,
kicked as well there.
oh yes.
Oh, you ain't mentioned that, Lou.
I
I was
was
going to if you guys were gonna ask me how am I doing, what's up, Lou? How you
I was
been?
just about to ask, well, what you
Yeah.
been playing?
Oh,
Well,
what you
we
been
already
playing?
know what you've been playing.
What do you mean? What do you mean? What I've been playing, man? I've been playing housemaid lately. I've been cleaning the house and stuff like that. I did that on Saturday, to be honest. But after that, I found Dutch and hell let loose, and we went out there and let loose hell. That's what we did. We went out there, we threw grenades, we got blown up, we shot everything. We even found a spawn point. We got like 40 kills in that spawn point.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah,
just letting
the
them spawn there, just shooting them like crazy.
spawn
That's
killer.
what we did. Yeah, we spawn killing right there. But hey, listen, I've been playing Rotato too. I also tried the Contra demo, which wow, damn, that Contra game has got me hyped. I can't wait for it to release. It looks good. It plays well. It's fantastic. Wow, amazing, amazing, amazing. I've also started to play Blasphemous. My God, that game is weird. I mean, I've been running around Blasphemous like, what the hell am I doing? I'm over here swinging my sword and just swinging my sword. That's all I've been doing. Facing big ass things, and that's about it.
Oh my
And
god.
last but not least, hey guys, Dead Island. Oh my God, that Dead Island 2. I mean, if you want a zombie game, that's a zombie game. I mean, wow, it's awesome. It's funny. It's crazy. I love how every time you smash zombies goes, you hear like the bones break. Like, oh my God, those sound effects and something you hit them in the face, you see like their jaw fall. Oh my God, freaking fantastic. I mean, I've been playing a lot of games these days. That's what I've been doing. But hey, everything's been good. Everything's been good. Everything's been fantastic. Fantastic. Sour, what's our flight itinerary for today, sir?
All right. Well, for our flight itinerary, of course, like every week, something has to happen after I have everything set up. But as you can see here, we're gonna talk about the topics I had was engagement versus sell, which we're gonna talk a little bit about that. I'll explain in a little bit. We're gonna talk about the possible next Xbox hardware, and then at the very end, we're gonna talk about the Sony crisis, which the three topics were kind of different, but I had to change last moment because we got bombarded with all these Sony news.
Oh, crazy stuff, crazy stuff. Real quick, before I hand it over to our captain, let me check in with our passengers that are here in this awesome chat. Oh my God, right before the show started, Adidas 20 with an awesome, beautiful, amazing $5 super chat. He says, let's go. Yes, man, let's go. Let's get the show on the road. And let's go down the list. It's Timmy. What's up, Timmy? What's up? What's up, Mr. Dark? How are you doing? How you doing, sir? What's up, RSJ fan? Hope you're doing awesome. HDK360. Howdy, howdy. How you doing, sir? How you doing? Oh, Talos, the man with the Ray and Richie. What's up, Richie and Talos? Hope you're doing awesome. Sanchez Martinez Gaming. Hello, hello, hello. Remake Station 5. How you doing? How you doing? Damn. That's the name of it, to be honest. Remake, remaster, remake. Yeah. Carlos Angeles, what's up, JC? How you doing? How you doing? Let me keep on. Ooh, Sicko Shells, Jay Vargas. How you doing, brother? How you doing? Oh man, that's awesome, people. Uh-oh. Here we go. Time to get the rap on. Yeah, let me put my hand on. Let me rap this name. G, maybe. G, G maybe. What's up, G maybe? How you doing, brother? How you doing? Hope everything is awesome for you. I'm telling you, I have to do a rap album real soon. I'm telling you. And that's about it. I think if I did not shout out your name, I will catch you on later. And now, Captain, take us in the air.
Ladies and gentlemen, Sour has turned on the subscribe button. Please stow your food and beverages next to your desk, underneath your seat, or in front of you. Please take your seat and fasten your seatbelt. Also, make sure that you've hit that like and subscribe as we take off. We gently remind you that smoking and drinking are not prohibited on this flight. However, making a promo video introducing our special guest while sounding like Count Chocula is strictly prohibited. If you have any questions about our flight today, please don't hesitate to ask one of our flight panelists. Thank you.
What y'all gotta say to sound like Count Chocula? I think my Dutch was pretty well. I think. I don't know.
I don't know about that.
Aw.
Oh man. Real quick. Let's see.
Uh-oh.
Okay,
Sour
before we jump into the main topics, I did wanted to bring up this topic I had, and it was regarding Microsoft Studios, becoming probably the best strategy publisher. We see that they have been, you know, they already got Halo Wars, they got the Age of Empire franchise, and now that they have Activision Blizzard, they're gonna have StarCraft, they're gonna have Warcraft, the old RTS. We just saw they announced the Age of Mythology Retold, and they're even going into like mobile with Age of Empire mobile.
And Aura.
So and
Aura History
Ara, yes,
Untold.
Ara. I mean, I think there's probably a few others that escape right now, but they do have a pretty extensive like library of strategy games. And right off the top of my head, I can't really think of any other publisher that has these many like strategy games. So starting with you, Dutch, what do you uh, what do you think about this like is Xbox the platform for not only like first person shooter but now also maybe even strategy games?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think well, Microsoft have always been kind of at the forefront of RTS, especially when you think about Age of Empires. That was one of the first big titles that Microsoft Game Studios released. Um, Age 1, Age 2 were kind of the ballpark, the starting games that I got into, especially online. When it was still dial-up connections, playing Age 2 online and playing Castle Blood against people in modded versions of maps and things like that was just, it was insane. And obviously trying to play through that and then someone picks up the phone and you lose connection and that's it. Your game's gone. Like, but no, they've always been at the forefront, and I've owned Age all the way through, and then obviously when most physical media on PC died, which is pretty much the case now, like physical media on PC died a long time ago. Um, Repurchased all of the Age games on Steam, so I've got Age of Mythology still, Age 1, 2, 3, all definitive editions. All of them have got modded maps galore, all the ones I used to love playing, so I'm able to go back and play that. And of course, we've all played Halo Wars 1 and Halo Wars 2, and even Gears Tactics as a form of RTS, like a really basic form of RTS. Um, but yeah, I think they've always had that heritage in RTS, and of course, over the years, there's been many studios that have also brought a lot of different kinds of RTS to the market, and very competitive ones at that. But my predominance and my love will always remain with the Age franchise. That's always been the king for me. I love just the method in which that you do that. You can just craft these huge bases and cities and fortifications, and then create a huge army with your own rules, and then go out and just play conquest or play kind of protect the wonder or whatever it is. It's always been absolutely awesome. But yeah, it's I think Microsoft will always be the home of RTS, really. I don't see, in fact, Sony, I don't think I've ever produced an RTS. Nintendo have never really produced an RTS outside of Final Fantasy Tactics, which was a different kind of strategy game. And even then, that was a Square game, so
Yeah.
that was the closest they got to some form of RTS on their platform. But Sony have never had that, so I mean, it'd be interesting to see what the demographic would be like if an RTS went to PlayStation. Um, but I just don't see it. I've spoken about this with numerous amounts of times, but there's a certain demographic on both platforms that I think people don't quite understand. Like, because Sony is the market leader and because they have such a significant user base, they are predominantly casual players, which means they predominantly pick up the natural games that casuals do, which is your Fortnites and your Roblox and your FIFAs or Maddens or NBA 2Ks. And that's not to say that Xbox don't have the fair share of casuals that play as well, but it is predominantly more of a hardcore console because not many people pick up an Xbox out of choice. Like, it's hard to say that, and people don't want to hear that. But Xbox isn't the one that someone goes out and buys out of pure choice. Usually, the people that pick up an Xbox do it because they've researched something or there's a specific title that Xbox produces that they want to play, like a Halo. And it's they don't pick up naturally an Xbox to buy a FIFA or to buy a Call of Duty like it was in the past. Whereas the vast majority of casual players would pick up a PlayStation for the FIFAs and the Call of Duties and you know your big casual games. And that's where the market always lies. And I've got many friends that have got PlayStations, and like I've got to remind them as well. I'm like, listen, have you tried God of War? Have you tried Horizon? And a lot of people I've worked with as well have just been like, yeah, not my kind of game. Like, when's the next Battlefield out? When's the next Call of Duty out? When's this out? And like, occasionally you'll get someone that say, yeah, I played The Last of Us and I really like that. I'm like, right, okay, well then try God of War or try this because they're big story narrative games as well. But predominantly the user base are just far different in terms of what they look for as an experience. And I think Xbox and Microsoft have always been the platform in terms of its entire ecosystem, not just Xbox, but Microsoft Game Studios before they went to Xbox have always been the platform to try and diversify into what they offer in terms of games, whether that be starting with Solitaire, which was the kind of predominant one that they started with on PC, which is still like one of the most
Yeah.
used games ever. Um, whether that be Solitaire or whether it be overall to Age of Empires or bringing in the first force feedback controllers with the force feedback flight stick and steering wheel and actual game pads and things for the PC before consoles really took off with that idea. Um, they're just diversifying their portfolio, always have, and I think RTS is one of their kind of staple heritage kind of genres that they've always been great at, and they will continue to be great at. So it's good to see RTS has expanded, but Microsoft is absolutely at the forefront of what RTS still produces, and which is, I mean, you've seen the hype when they announced Age of Mythology Retold was still coming in 2024. We kind of knew it was, but we needed the confirmation essentially. Is it still coming? I said, yeah, it's still coming
Mm.
summer 2024. So I'm like, great, awesome. And there was a massive amount of hype around that because it's a game that people loved from years gone past, and apparently they're just reimagining this into something that is far exceeds what the original game produced, which is great to see. So yeah, it's Microsoft's always been the forefront of RTS, and long may that continue because the Age franchise has been, like I say, it's just been a staple and beloved by so many people in the RTS scene. So yeah,
Yeah. No, I completely agree with you that they are showing that strategy base, they're probably the platform to go. Or of course, other than PC. But I wanted to ask this to Silent because while you were talking, I actually thought about this, and it's something that Silent and me have complained, and it's basically Microsoft marketing. Uh, do you think that if you look around, like they are probably the best platform outside PC to play strategy games right now? They're probably the platform I would say for first person shooter other than PC, because if you look around there's more options to play first person shooter on Xbox than PlayStation, because most of the common ones there are in PlayStation, and then there's more that you cannot play on PlayStation. You also got with the RPG, you got them locked with Obsidian, you got Bethesda, you got, all the RPG that are coming out on their platform. And I feel like there's many other genres that they touch that PlayStation do not touch. So my thing is, why don't they promote like this is the platform for strategy? This is the platform for, even for like sport games if you think about it, because if you bundle it with Game Pass, most of most of the sport games are coming to Game Pass. So what do you think about that, time?
I think it goes back to a conversation we've had time and time again, right? Is Microsoft doesn't like to really communicate what they have, which it's like an embarrassment of riches that you have in Game
Or they
Pass, for example.
communicate, they just don't do it well.
Well, yes, yes. I'll take it back a little bit. Yes, you are correct. They communicate. They don't communicate in the way that like someone coming from jobs where I did a lot of marketing and promotion side of things. When I see their version of marketing and communication, I'm like, you had a good opportunity and you crapped the bed a little bit. And it happens. I get it. Like not every promotion and marketing is going to be a winner. But that being said, like these guys pay these folks to do these jobs. Like there are people in communications, there are people in marketing. Like what are we doing? Like you could communicate these things much better than what you do. And I know some people push back and they're like, "Oh, well, look at how these games sold over the years and blah 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 and they market just fine." Like okay. Okay. Again, like go around and look and see how much you see the competitors marketing or communicating these things versus when Xbox does it. It's a different situation. Now, I will say for Xbox, like they get out there and they're more social with folks and they're more of a friendly face than the other companies are in regards to like actually talking things out. It's why we see people like Phil Spencer, like Aaron Greenberg, people like that out there having these conversations. But that doesn't always get the sale. Like,
Yeah.
you don't see people throwing a fit about the fact that Sony and Nintendo don't come out here and have a buddy buddy relationship with you because they never made that a thing. Microsoft tried to do that, and sometimes to their detriment, especially like these situations we saw recently. Because they have those relationships with people out in the industry, in social media, all throughout our communities, those people think that they just have a direct one, like a direct line connection to those people at all times. And the thing is like these people are doing a high level job. They don't have all the time to sit there and field your questions all the time. And that's again, that goes back to like Sony and Nintendo never put themselves out that way, so it's not expected. So there is a detriment for
Nintendo
that
is the
side of it.
complete opposite.
Yeah, yeah, it's night and day, right? Like if you ask someone from Microsoft that's a front-facing personality, they'll try and communicate if they can. If it's not something that has an NDA, if it's something they can talk about, they will talk about it. If you if you send a message to Sony, you're not getting a response. You're not getting a response with Nintendo. Like it's the cadence that they designed and that they developed and kind of like fostered over the years. And I think that plays into some of the communication and marketing too. Is I think sometimes Microsoft approaches it more of like a grassroots thing. Conversation. Like people are going to communicate this. The word's going to get out, so we don't need to worry about putting all that extra money in.
I
I
would
would
say as
disagree.
well, Cypher, in terms of the communication thing, there's one thing I have noticed, especially when you've got things like large scale leaks and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
You tend to find Microsoft, if there's a large scale leak, Xbox themselves take it upon themselves to clarify the situation or put out messaging about that. If there's a Sony leak, Sony don't comment, but the studios are left to fend for themselves, and the studios have to come out and make that notice, which I think isn't right. I think it should be Sony coming out and saying, "Listen, we do not tolerate X, Y, and Z, and we will be supporting the teams." And but they don't do any of that. Like they're just whatever, just get on with it. That's there is some things that I don't agree with that Sony do, but Microsoft, on the other hand, as you've mentioned, these ingrained personalities that think these direct lines or because they've got a personal friendship with these people at Xbox like Aaron Greenberg, etc. And I'm one of them. But the difference is I don't expect Aaron Greenberg to owe me anything. Like he's a cool guy. He's
Yep.
actually really takes personal a personal attachment to somebody, gets to know them personally, knows where you're from and what you do. He knows in depth things about me that I didn't know he knew when I met him personally. But that being said, if the company isn't or is performing or decide to make a choice, that's not his personal issue. Like I don't hold him personally responsible. And same for Phil Spencer. Like he's in charge of this massive corporation, but ultimately he's not in charge of the entirety of that corporation. Satya is still the man that makes those decisions, and he will relay those as the old saying goes, shit rolls downhill. Whatever he says at the top goes.
Yep.
Whether or not Phil Spencer likes it or not, he will have those combats behind closed doors. You can absolutely bet he's fought that as much as he can on his front, because I know the likes of Aaron Greenberg and Phil Spencer, etc., will push the slogan, like when we all play, we win, etc. But ultimately, they don't want everything going everywhere. And if Satya really had his ability and really had all his eggs in the basket, then every game from Xbox would be on every platform. I think the fact that they've managed to mitigate it at the moment to four, although we know there will be more, and some of them larger, some of them smaller across time. Um, I think is testament to the fact that they did likely fight this a little bit behind closed doors, because I think in time, and I've said this about Sony as well, in time we will see everything everywhere. I think Sony will follow suit. Everyone said exactly the same thing about Xbox when they went to PC again, like as if they weren't already on PC with them being Microsoft Game Studios, but they went back to PC with Quantum Break, and they were like, "What are you doing there? Why are you going to PC for? Blah blah. It's going to hurt everything." And then that died down, and everyone got used to it. Now when Sony started doing it, everyone was kicking off, "What are you doing this for?" Blah blah blah. And now they're going full PC strategy, like everything's going to go to PC pretty much day one, uh, and everyone's going to calm down about that. And now Xbox is doing okay. We're going to put some of our stuff over onto multiple platforms, and everyone's going to rage about it for a while, and then to get used to the fact that most things will go on most platforms. Not every game. I don't physically think as well personally that every game will go everywhere, because you still need some software to differentiate yourself, because UI, or because you've got your games on this platform, or because you've got a service, isn't a selling factor. Never has been, never will be. You can have any subscription. If your subscription, like Game Pass, is available everywhere, you're not going to sell anything that's physical. And ultimately, you're still producing a box. And until they stop producing a box, they still need to sell that box. So until that point is gone, and everything is literally just up in the air cloud, and cloud's at the point where it is feasible to go full shift, then they will need to still have exclusive IP. That's probably going to be about another 10 years away until we see nothing. But Sony will shift that direction as well. And as much as people don't want to believe that, money talks.
Yeah.
Money talks. And ultimately, as you've mentioned, with the differentiation in the way that they communicate, we've seen the big man, the money man at Sony, the CFO, the COO, come out and say we need to make a massive strategic shift into how we operate, because the way we do things right now, if you want the big stuff, if you want us to keep doing this, then we need to have a strategic shift in how we can afford this, because it isn't feasible going forward to do that. So yeah, the messaging is as you've mentioned, it's entirely different. Xbox is pally, and that's caused them issues because a lot of people get these emotional connections to senior executives. And I understand that, but you've got to be able, like you do in between work and home, you've got to be able to have that, right, cut short.
Yep.
Like, this is personal, this is work.
That
This is what Aaron
separation.
Greenberg does. Aaron Greenberg might be your friend, but he doesn't owe you anything on a work level.
Yeah.
You might
Yeah.
know Phil Spencer, but Phil Spencer doesn't owe you anything on a work level. Same for people who are friends and pally with the PlayStation guys. You might know Yoshi, doesn't mean he owes you anything. You might know Herman Hulst, doesn't mean he owes you anything. Vice versa. These are still big guys in charge of big corporations that predominantly are tasked at making money.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? And that's ultimately the bottom line. The problem is the messaging around both of these companies in order to make money has been night and day. Sony know how to market, has always known how to market, and know how to market virally, which is why they've went to the point that they are now. Xbox went the viral route in 360 days, and it really worked. But then they stopped on the Xbox One days. They really messed it up, and they've never recovered the marketing side of things. It's not just the console itself, but the marketing on how to market Xbox and their position and what they offer to people hasn't been marketed correctly. As someone mentioned in the chat earlier, it's all Game Pass, Game Pass, Game Pass. And as much as we appreciate a service that saves us money on Xbox specific titles, like, I don't care. Like, ultimately, most casual people still don't know what Game Pass is and also don't care, because ultimately they will still go out and just buy the game that's advertised that people are playing. If a big game is out and people are playing it and talking about it, they'll buy it. It's as simple as that. Helldivers on PC, why did that get so popular? Because it was viral. Why did Palworld get so popular? Because it went viral. Like, that's what sells, not a subscription service. Like, it's got many subscribers, congratulations.
Wait,
But ultimately, that isn't something that, get our subscription service. You know, how many people have got subscription services these days? Spotify, Apple TV, Disney Plus, Netflix, Amazon Prime, like, you name Hulu, Discovery Plus, you name it, everything under the sun these days. You throw another few subscription services in there, people are just like, I've got a lot already. Like, I've already got $110 of subscription services every month. Am I going to add another like $20 on top of this? Like, this is another thing that I don't think a lot of them are kind of weighing up. It's like, you can push the subscription service as much as you want, but ultimately the casual person is going to look at how many subscriptions they've already got and say, no, I'd just rather buy a game if I like a game. That's just the bottom line. And the messaging's not there. It's not like, how can you? And we've said this a lot. Like, when you see Game Pass adverts, it's not advertising a singular game. It's not like Game Pass and you can play the brand new such and such on Game Pass today, and then just leave it at that. Don't mention that you've got thousands of titles.
Yeah.
Because then people don't care. They're just like, all right, okay, so I can play. Oh, I can play Call of Duty, and Forza, and Halo, and Gears, and It's diluting the message. It's not just like emphasizing this. Look at this big game that we've got on here, and then just this is the game that you can play.
Dead Island 2.
Diluting the message.
Dead Island 2 is a prime example. You know,
Yep.
you literally. I mean, don't get me wrong. As a consumer, I enjoy myself a shadow drop, but that was a golden opportunity. Like this game had a lot of support, had a lot of fanfare around it, and you literally just dropped it, and we're kind of like, oh, hey, by the way, it's there. You could have had a commercial. You could have had some sort of advertising be like, play this on Game Pass now, available today. Like, they could have done something with it. They choose not to. They just, like you said too, they approach it in a different way. I do want to touch on a couple other things you said real quick, but I do want to say real fast, shout out to Mash in the chat. He actually just gifted 5 subscriptions to Xbox International. Thank you so much. Much appreciated. And yeah, anyone who ended up getting one of those, please show Mash some love. The support is greatly appreciated. Couple things I did want to touch on real quick, because you mentioned obviously like people do have these relationships with folks high up, high level folks in these companies, and you mentioned, like they're not going to tell you all the things. They're not required to tell you all the things. It's not their job to tell you all the things. I would add on top of that and say they're not going to put their job in jeopardy to tell you these things.
Yep.
And there's a lot of
Regardless
things
of
that
how
they
close you are.
cannot tell you,
Yep.
But I know we kind of like we went off into quite a quite a
Yeah.
deep conversation with it, but I think it does go back to the same conversation we started with, right? Is just
Yeah.
you look at something like them having RTSs or first person shooters, they could use that as a linchpin for their marketing, for their communication. They could specify we have these things. The competition doesn't,
Mm-hmm.
but they just don't. Like it's there was a saying that always happened back when I worked in Pepsi, and it was, when you go to the stores and you see these massive elaborate displays for soda, right? That's a big thing. It's an eye catcher. It catches your eyes. It draws you right in immediately. It doesn't matter if you buy it, you see it, right? So it's in your mind. And one of the things they always said was a display with no sign is a sign of no display. And I feel like that matches up with this, right? It's like if you don't advertise these things, no one's going to know it's there unless they do the due diligence and they do the legwork to find it.
Like specifically with Call of Duty, like when that hits Game Pass, because the wording from the previous thing would, like the Phil Spencer when they had that meeting and they said, listen, all games are going to, well, that was actually, it was Sarah Bond, all Microsoft and Xbox games come to Game Pass day one, like all of them. That could be okay. So is Call of Duty day one this year then? If that is the case, then the marketing in June when the next Call of Duty is unveiled needs to just be a Call of Duty advert, and it's like play day one on Game Pass.
Yep.
Like just play this day one on Game Pass should be the predominant thing of the Call of Duty advert. That's all it should be. If they really are focused on Game Pass, then you just need to do a massive advert about Call of Duty specifically with Game Pass. Don't mention every other title you can play. Just that. Like the marketing needs to be on point. We know they're not going to, because they'll go, you do the little Call of Duty cutout thing, and then they'll just zoom to Forza and Flight Sim and like all the things that no one.
Yeah, which like it's all fine and great, but literally you could utilize Call of Duty as the handshake at the door. Be like, this is what we brought you in with. But now that you're here, check out everything else that's here. Because there's a ton of stuff and you will have a backlog you will never catch up on because of how many things are here. But like you said, like keep it laser focused, because consumers especially, like if you give them too much decision paralysis, it's not going to help you. Guaranteed if Sony gets the marketing for something like GTA, they are going to laser focus the hell out of this thing.
Yeah.
They're not going to be like, hey, you can play this on our system along with all these other games. They're going to be like, you can play GTA on this system. They will focus on that specific title because that's what you want to do. You want to keep that in their mind, not just all the other things.
Last game that Xbox laser focused the adverts on was Gears.
Starfield. Starfield was everywhere.
Nah.
It
It
wasn't
was
the same
alright,
way.
but it wasn't.
It
Yeah,
wasn't the same
Wasn't
way
on the TV.
as
It
yeah.
adults.
I-
Yeah,
If you
it
think
wasn't.
about it, they kind of at the end. But
I've
remember,
still got
remember, everyone was complaining that
it's
no
the
one.
last 30
Yeah,
days. Yep.
I've still got old like video, like not even video recordings, but when Gears 5 launched, I've still got recordings from like football matches I was watching on the TV when I was recording the football match. And the breaks at half time was the Gears 5 advert with Kate like getting up in the cave with the berserker in front of her. Like that was the last time they predominantly laser focused on an IP
Yeah.
on
yeah.
TV adverts. Like nothing else since has
And I
been
would
there. It's just been
argue
Oh
these
yeah.
jumbled Game Pass adverts that no
I,
one really paid attention to.
I would argue like it did really well for them when they did that. Like you looked at Gears, and Gears took up a lot of the oxygen in the room for a good bit of time when it came out. It's like, you have these teams in these companies where they do the research and they're like, okay, when we did this marketing push, how much response did we get? How much interaction? I would bet they had some really good interaction on that one. And my question would be like, you saw the benefit of the financial investment that you made. Why aren't you doing that now? Why aren't you looking at that track record and trying to do the same thing again?
I will say this real quick, and then I will ask Lou a question because poor Lou hasn't talked. That's kind of weird, and so he hasn't talked much. But
What?
I
It's
was
kind of
in
weird. No,
timeout and we didn't even know.
I'm just listening. I'm just back here
okay, yeah,
listening.
that's kind of odd. It's
No,
kind of odd, I would say.
I'm closing
But
some deals with
but
China. No worries. No worries. I'm working too. No
what I
worries.
will what I will say, I think they need to they need to like better rethink some of their marketing and have better idea. They need to target more kind of like the casual fans because we that like the fans that know we know what's there. We kind of keep track of everything. But for example, I feel like there's a lot of missed opportunity on their end. For example, I know it's expensive, but for example, the Super Bowl, you have a lot of people there that were watching the Super Bowl, and you just had the new Madden there. Like, why would you not make a Game Pass ad, showcase we have Madden and we have other sports game in the service, and maybe some of your other big games. NBA playoffs are coming soon. Promote that you have, you know, 2K in it. Try
Well,
to get,
after that as well,
you know,
Sourblow, when they do these adverts, though, they just usually, like, at the end, they'll show the trailer, and then at the end of it, they just go, come and do one at Game Pass.
yeah,
That's it. That's it.
yeah,
That's
that's it.
all you
Yep.
get.
Yeah, that's all you get. So they need to get like better at it and better communicating at people. You can play this specific game that this crowd wants. This is the game that you can play on Game Pass. And then once they're in, the platform, they'll probably try other games and they'll probably be surprised. Like my brother, he's big PlayStation fan. I got him into Game Pass. And once he started browsing through Game Pass, he was like, this game is there, this game is there. Like he was surprised how many like great games. So they need to work on that. But going back to the original topic real quick, and then we can jump to the next one. Regarding strategy games and all that. My question for you, Lou, is
Oh,
um, strategy games are kind of considered a little bit niche, especially on the console side. What strategy game do you think, or what IP should maybe they kind of should target or make into a strategy, game that you feel like could pull like more users into playing
oh,
these type of games?
it's playing those type of games, man. You asked me the hardest question of them all because damn, all of them are great. It's hard for me to sit here and say, okay, let me pick one. Oh my god, that's a hard one. That's a
Pick
hard
one
one.
IP that you would like them to that you
Oh Lord. Oh man. But real quick before I pick one real fast, Mash again gifted 5 Xbox International
again. Oh my
Podcast
god.
members. And thank you, Mash, so much for that awesome support, man. Really, thank you, thank you, thank you. So that one IP, man, Sour. Man, if I mean if I had to focus on something, but it's not a strat, it's not like a RTS type of game though. But I'll put it to the side then. But I would actually sit there and bring back a StarCraft. I mean, people have been craving for StarCraft. I know you've been craving for World of Warcraft to be RTS again. I know
uh,
that.
for Warcraft. But
Yeah, for Warcraft. Oh yeah,
but
Warcraft.
I'll
Yeah,
take StarCraft too. StarCraft
StarCraft is
was
amazing. I mean, I
amazing.
will sit down and bring part three. I mean, I'm craving for part three. I've been years playing part two. I'm tired of part two. I'm not, like I'm put it to the side, but damn, I want a part three. It's time to bring that baby back. That's the game I would pick out of all strategy games because we already got Age of Empires. We already got, which is pretty cool. We're getting another Age of Empires real soon too. I mean, dang, bring back that StarCraft, baby. Bring it. I want that. I want that.
All right. Well, okay. Well, the next topic we kind of already touch a little bit on, and I'm actually gonna ask you right away, Lou, since
Woohoo! Yes.
since we kind of left you for last. And
Oh,
Clover put. I'm actually gonna put it real quick. Clover did a pretty interesting picture where he showed some of the growth of the player numbers on the Xbox ecosystem.
oh,
We got Starfield with 13 million plus, Ghostwire 6 million, Grounded 20 million, Flight Sim 12 million, State of Decay 2 11 million, Forza 37 million, Minecraft Dungeons 25 million, Sea of Thief 35, Fallout 7617, Elder Scroll 24, Halo Infinite 20.
damn.
Yeah, so
That's a lot of numbers.
they have been pushing a lot lately, well, not lately, but this generation especially, the whole player number. And a lot of the narrative was because, they basically were lost last generation in sales, and this generation, they're probably going to lose it again. But we have seen Sony also say that, player numbers actually, we should be considered more. So my question is, to
Hmm.
you, do you feel that sales are not important anymore or as
Wow.
important? And how important are the player numbers?
Why you keep asking me all these hard questions, Sour? I mean, God, Sour, all these hard questions are for me. Do sales matter? Do they
Well,
not?
this question is for everyone.
Draw
Well,
out a picture for him.
no, no, no. It's not that because this is actually my favorite topic. I mean, we to sit down and talk numbers. I love talking about numbers, and here's the thing, though. It depends on the company, though, Sour. It depends on the company. Like, for example, for PlayStation, sales do matter a lot because that's actually one of their biggest marketing things. Because remember, when there's bad news for PlayStation, there all of a sudden we sold 50 million consoles. That's what they do. To bring up the good news and bring the fan hype. Like, yeah, we sold 50 million. Woo-hoo!
Yeah,
Let's take
but
their shirt off, that. But it depends on the company, though. But here's the thing, though. Things are changing right now in the world of gaming, right? We're now seeing something with Microsoft. We just saw them move Sea of Thieves over to PlayStation. So we saw them move Sea of Thieves over to PlayStation. But guess what? In order, to be in Sea of Thieves and everything, you gotta be signed to a Microsoft account. Hmm. What do you think that's gonna happen at the end of the day when you sign up to the Microsoft account? You know what Microsoft will come around and do? How many numbers were on Sea of Thieves, brother? You mentioned it. 35 million, you said?
35, yeah.
35. But then later on, Microsoft come around and says we have 50 million Sea of Thieves players. That's what they're gonna do with those numbers. They're gonna be talking about how that number grew over there on the side of Sony and any other console that's out there. So player numbers actually do matter because here's the thing, though. We've seen the sales with PlayStation, right? We see them. We saw the other day, 10 million Spider-Man have been sold. Now, Sony never mentions on their copies that they sold. I've never seen them. I could be wrong, guys. I could be wrong, all right? I could be wrong. But what I seen though, I never see them like post how many were bundled, how many were individual, and all that stuff. I don't know. I don't know how many were digital, how many were physical. I don't know. Sometimes they say, "Oh, we saw 500,000 physical copies," but yet the others, they don't actually mention it. They don't actually
That's
talk
kind of
about
true.
it.
And there's
And
people that buy the two, just like they buy two copies, one to just keep
exactly.
for collection, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. They do that though. They probably buy the big old box with the Spider-Man and the 20 inches of Venom. you know, Pause. But yeah, some people buy the collector's edition and stuff like that, and probably buy the normal game. They probably do that. But here's my thing, though: out of those 10 million players, what's actually the percentage of those people that sat down and actually beat the game, or actually sat down and played the game? Some people might buy the console and say, "Oh, it's Spider-Man. Okay, phew, I'll play it later. Let me play Call of Duty because this is why I bought my console." Oh, um, or let me play Minecraft, or let me play Fortnite because we saw in the leaks, we saw in those damn leaks, we saw this, and we saw that the main games played on PlayStation were Minecraft, Fortnite, I could be wrong, and Call of Duty. We saw that, but none of those exclusives out there. So Sony wants people to play the games. They want to play the games because, for example, I mean, I haven't played yet Spider-Man 2, but I can imagine Spider-Man 2 probably has some microtransactions in there, like for costumes. Let's get this cool costume over here, get all this stuff. Um, and that's why they want them to sit down and play those games because not only that, they're using resources because they gotta have. I don't know. I'm partly speaking my mind on this because again, I'm not behind those companies or anything. They're probably using resources, for people to buy the game digital, partly the saves and all that stuff. They're using those resources, and they gotta pay for those resources from people playing the game or sitting down and using it. So at the end of the day, sales versus player numbers. Right now, player numbers for me is what matters because it's actually getting me feedback on how many players are actually playing the game, are actually enjoying the game, and it's the actual true number that's out there. Because okay, like I said, 15 million copies. You guys sold 15 million copies. From those 15 million copies, how many people have sat down and actually played the game or beaten the game? That's something that we don't know about unless we log into PlayStation, we look at the achievements, we see who completed the game, that trophy that's right there. And right there and there, you sit there and you take out that percentage of how many people actually beat the game. That's how we would know. But it's crazy. It's crazy that how things have changed around. Because here's another thing though that I do talk about. And I talk a lot with people about this on sales, right? Spider-Man has like 36, I think, million sales of the game, right? The first one. When Spider-Man 2 came out, the first month, it should have been, I mean, if 36 million actually played it, I played Spider-Man 1. I love the game. It's a freaking fantastic game. So Spider-Man 2 came out, those sales should have been up to 15 million or 20 million. Not in 3 months, only 10 million people have bought it, which is crazy. It's such a great game. And I've been saying this from Nintendo too, because on Nintendo side of things, they put out a Zelda, they put out Mario, they put a title like this, and all of a sudden you see in the first month they already have 10, 20 million people already behind the game. Out on the ways it reaches 40, 50, 60, and another thing, we don't see them lower that price. Now on Sony numbers, because I remember back in the day with developer of Days Gone, he came out and listen, this game sold like what 10 million copies. He came out and said, "We're not doing a sequel. Why? Pay the damn game for $60. This is why we're not doing the sequel." And the sequel was going to be interesting because it was going to have co-op, but we didn't see it because nobody paid for the game for $60. They waited for sales, they waited for this, and started buying the game at a cheaper price.
Yeah.
So player counts, of course, they matter more now because again, that's the feedback they get. And not only that, if they do something, for the player to go in there and spend the money. For example, you see Fortnite, whoosh, Jesus, Fortnite makes a crap load of money. Call of Duty does too, right? And that's what you got to do. You got to do something to get those players' numbers up. Not because you sold the game, you got to get them up. But you got to get people to play your game so they can actually go out there, talk about it. Not because, oh, I have it. Because, like I said, these people probably buy the bundle console and they don't sit down and play it or play it for like 10 minutes or 15 minutes and just whoosh, let's let it go.
Yeah, there's actually a question in the chat that says, "Why does it matter if it's bundle?"
Why does it matter if it's bundled? Well, here's the thing though, because this is how I see it. And I could be wrong, guys. I could be wrong, but this is how I see it. Because if I had to pay um Marvel for the rights of Spider-Man, right? And this is a way for me to count the game sale. I will put it as a bundle. Example, Spider-Man, right? I will put Spider-Man in a bundle. So when people go buy the PS5, it's in there. I get the money for it and say, Marvel, here you go. and give them that number. Say, hey, Marvel, we sold 10 million copies. That's something I would do. I mean, that's how I see it. And that's something that Sony has been using for quite a long time, the whole bundle thing, and that's to get those numbers up. That's how I'm seeing it. Like I said, I could be wrong, but this information is not to be actually out there. But I'm just saying on how I would get my numbers up for a game, because if you put it individually, they wouldn't be as high up as Sony keeps talking about it. That's how I see it. And the only way we, like I said, the only way we can know how actually people sat down and beat it, we got to sit down and see that trophy from Spider-Man that says completion and see what percentage of people around the world did actually beat the game. And after that, you do the math, you take the percentage out, and see that total number of people who actually did play the game. That's what you would see. But yeah, that's why
Okay.
bundle matters.
Well, there's a few chats where you
Yeah,
to
I'm going
read
in
it.
there. I'm going in there. John TJ with an awesome, beautiful $2 super set. He says, "Command and conquer. Go pay EA." Man, John,
Dude,
I agree with you for that, man.
I
I
agree.
mean, I agree.
Right
Get
there.
that damn game out there. I mean, we got to bring that game. And please, please, please do a Red Alert again. I miss Red Alert 2. That's my favorite Command and Conquer. That's my favorite
Red
gun.
alert.
Red Alert 2, you never played that Sourblow? Oh my
Yeah,
god.
I know it's red alert.
Oh, you know what's Red Alert? Oh, okay, just in case, just in case. And I'll rate you with an amazing, beautiful Canadian $2 super chat. He says, I played 15 minutes of Grounded and Sea of Thieves. Dang, you only played 15 minutes? We got to get Rachel in those games,
Yeah,
Sourblow.
we gotta
Yeah, get
take
a
him
Sea of
out to the
Thieves.
seas. Yeah.
This Reishi, let me give it real quick. I'll tell you what I do in Sea of Thieves. All I do is I get on the boat, I jump into islands, I collect 10 cannonballs, 5 wood things, and just head back. That's all I do. And just ship battles, and that's about it. I don't look for treasure, nothing like that. That's all I do.
Louis, did you already get Mash's 5 additional membership?
Yeah, I did.
Okay,
I did.
cool.
I did.
Sorry, it
Yeah.
probably happened right as I was. I had a power outage. Sorry, guys.
Oh no, you're
No.
good.
Oh, Dominican over there, silent power outages like we do all the
Yep,
time.
yep. We
Oh,
got
dang.
your
Yeah.
power grid now. So
Okay,
Yeah.
well, I will say real quick regarding the whole thing with bundling the copies or not. I would say it is important to know. Well, not for us, the consumer, but probably for them because that way you know the engagement that the users do have with the game. Because let's say X game, you're putting it in bundles, but a large amount bought it from bundles. That you can kind of like get an idea if maybe a sequel would sell or not. Like, because at the end of the day, when you bundle the game, you're kind of like some people just buy the console because they just want the console and they're like, oh, an
Yeah.
extra game, but sometimes they don't even play that game because they want to play their Call of Duty, they want to play Fortnite or whatever. So I do feel that's important on that side. Now, Dutch, what do you think about the whole player engagement and sales as a whole for the future?
Yeah, so there's two ways. Sales specifically, sales matters to the studios and to the company. However, um, again, different company strategies. But this is why Sony are also trying to broaden their horizons now. When it comes to actual business strategy and the way that they do things, as opposed to what we view it as, business strategy wise, Microsoft have always been the platform for multiplayer, so they've got a history of creating successful multiplayer games that have got high user engagement or relatively decent user engagement. And all they've done now is shifted to adding monetization options to them. I'm not talking about loot boxes, we're talking predominantly cosmetics. Um, and a lot of, if you had a look at the list that you showed before, 7 of those titles that were the highest player engagements are all multiplayer games as a service games that have anywhere from 15 to 35 million players. And each one of those is a game service game that has free expansions and monetizes predominantly on either maybe the battle pass or a season pass. As we know, Halo was season pass, but they've changed it now, and they're not doing battle passes anymore. They're just going to seasons. But predominantly, their monetization is in cosmetics. And I've said this for a long time. It's all well and good if you're shifting a game for $60. That's one. That's one thing you've done to monetize that game. And as soon as that game's sold, you are no longer making any money off that game. No matter if that game gets returned or whether it gets traded in and somebody else buys it. If somebody trades it in and somebody else buys it, they don't see another dime off that. So that game, once it's sold, there's no more money to be made from it. Which is why you have to expand your horizons. Yes, single player games are important. We love single player games, but they don't make the money. Never have. And this is what Sony now understand as well. Like these huge $300 million single player narrative games are great, but they predominantly don't make the kind of money they need to make to be a sustainable business going forwards. And they need to broaden their horizons, which is why they kicked up such a fuss with Call of Duty, because a lot of the money that they were making from Call of Duty was on the microtransaction front, was on the after sales stuff, not the unit sales. They don't make that much money on the unit sales. It's predominantly the microtransaction stuff. You've got to have a recurring revenue stream, and that's why Microsoft are focusing on the Game Pass and the user engagement and recurring ways of making money. Okay, we've got Sea of Thieves, free updates all of the time, huge expansions to the game that have been free for its entirety, and the only thing they've got in there that monetizes that game is skins, is ship sets, is weapon skins, is funky outfits. That's it. That's it. And even then, you can earn a lot of the stuff in game as rewards. So you don't have to. Like some of the coolest stuff is for doing seasonal events or for being a pirate legend. Like a lot of the stuff that is the coolest stuff to get, you can earn in game, or exclusive items that you can't get in the shop are earned in that game. So they have a good way of saying, okay, you want to play the game and get this fancy stuff, you need to complete this. There is no other way to get it. You have to complete this. Or you can get this funky one that looks like Battletoads, or a funky one that looks like Call of Duty. And occasionally we'll give these away in Game Pass as perks, but not all of the time. Or we'll do these fancy Viking ones, or this nighttime version, or this daytime version, or this whatever it is. And Call of Duty is exactly not Call of Duty. Call of Duty is exactly the same in terms of weapon skins. Predominantly, they don't monetize anything else other than weapon skins and battle passes for Warzone. Then you go over to Forza, and they've just got the car pass, and that's pretty much all you're getting for that. Car pass and season pass for Forza, and that gets you the cars. And then later on, when the car pass runs out after its first year or so, then you go out buy car packs, which you get a block to put cars in. But ultimately, it's a lot of it is just skins and things. It's recurring revenue stream. Now, if you're going back to user engagement and player engagement, it matters to them on the player engagement front versus sales, because again, sales doesn't tell you anything about how that game's performed with the users that have purchased it. You have no idea whether or not someone's just bought the game and they've turned it on and then they've played for 5 minutes and they've never returned to it again. So is that game successful, or is that game just sold? There's a difference. The game's successful, that means a lot of people have played it and loved it up until completion, or have played it for a significant amount of time. If a player remains playing that game for a significant amount of time, and I don't mean afterwards, I just mean in general, if someone's played a game that you've made for 40 plus hours, that is a success. However, if someone's bought Spider-Man 2 and they've turned it on for 5 minutes and never returned to it, is that successful, or is that game not hit the demographic? You've sold a lot of copies, but if no one's actually played the game, is that a success? It's a success financially, but it isn't when it comes to who's actually played the game, because no one really played the game. That means going forward, you don't know whether or not realistically anyone's going to pick up the next one. You might have sold a bunch on the first, but if no one actually completed the first because they didn't like it, then are they actually going to pick up the second game. So a good thing that we saw even from Starfield and their player numbers, which was like 15 million or something, I think it said, or 13 million plus, was that they showed the average playtime per player was over 40 hours. Average playtime. Like, considering you've got 13 million players, average playtime of 40 hours is insane.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yep.
And that's on a single player game. That's not a multiplayer game. That's a single player game. So the average person picked up that game for at least 40 hours and played that game significantly. That's what you would class as a success, because people didn't just pick up the game, play it for an hour and put it down. The more than average amount of players that played that game played it for a significant portion before they stopped playing it, which means that is a relatively successful game. Same for the likes of Sea of Thieves and the likes of Forza Horizon, and all of these games. If you have a look at all of the facts and figures they put out, they don't talk about sales predominantly. Like, they shout about user engagement and numbers, but the vast majority of stuff they always put out is little demographics on, people have played for this amount of time and have killed this many things, or they've done this many, or they've crafted this much stuff, because they like talking about how engaged the users are. And that predominantly will tell you whether or not a game will be getting a sequel, because they know people aren't just buying the game and then dropping it after 5 minutes. They're buying it, they're loving it, they're sticking with it. Okay, people really like this game. We can see they really like it because of their playtime, the amount of stuff they've done in the game, how much they're interacting with it. This definitely will get a sequel because people really liked the first one and they played the first one. Again, a hard sales number. You can't tell anything from just a single sales number other than we made a bunch of money. That's it. That's all you can tell from that. We made some money. Okay, just how many people played or finished the game. That tells me whether or not the game is successful.
And they don't they don't talk about those metrics
Until
usually.
Helldivers.
Well, yes.
So divers,
It's-
yeah.
It's quite weird that we didn't hear anything about Spider-Man 2's completion rates. But I mean, that's
Or
the
how
thing,
many,
right?
like, it's just daft things. It's daft things like
Yeah.
Starfield did. They were like, how many ships were stolen and how many times this happened and that happened. Like, in Spider-Man, you can go how many arrests or how many web slings or how many Like, you can put up these really random demographics that they can see on their end that would show how many people were really interacting with the game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's how you know if the game is popular among the people that are playing it. Not just a simple sales figure doesn't tell you anything about whether or not that game's been a success. And again, critic scores mean nothing. Like,
Nope.
this is the problem with Sony, and always has been the problem with Sony. I think someone said it in chat earlier. Microsoft stopped focusing on the big 300 million things to get an extra 5 on Metacritic because they know it doesn't benefit anybody. Whereas Sony, as we know from Days Gone that was mentioned before, the reason that didn't get greenlit was because it wasn't a critical success. It had nothing to do with sales. It wasn't a critical success. So because the critics didn't like it, regardless of the fans, which was actually over 80, the fans loved it more than the critics did. Regardless of them, because it wasn't a critical success, the game didn't get greenlit for a second. That's absurd. It shouldn't matter what critics think, because the critics aren't buying a game. The critics, you gifted that critic to review. What should matter is the player score. Ultimately, what is the player reviews coming back with on this? What's the player feedback? If the player feedback is high and they're loving it and they're talking about it all the time and all this feedback's going on, and although they have their complaints, ultimately they love the game and they want to continue playing the game, that's what matters more than a critic score. And that's what Sony need to shift away from. They're so focused on hard sales of copies and what critics think and not what the player thinks. That is the differentiation here, and why Microsoft continue to make these multiplayer, cooperative, community-based games that have been uber successful and always have been that way inclined, because that's the way that they like to track their engagement. Okay, so how good is this, and does it deserve another one? And how good is this, and does it deserve another one? And why is Gears of War still going strong? And Why have they still got a community? Why is, as much as Halo Backlash, why is that still got a large community and why are a lot of people still playing that? Ultimately, because they still really enjoy it. They've crafted a really great online experience for that game, and that's what they're tracking. Okay, so what's the engagement like on this? So yeah, it's absolutely, sales matter to a very finite detail. They matter more to the studio than they do to anything else. The studio needs to see if that game's been successful because it gives them that initial influx of cash that they need to cover the basic investment that they've done. Okay, so this game cost 100 million. As long as we've hit that 100 million or 110 million mark, then we've covered our
Cost.
own arse. We've covered the cost of the game. The game is now into its profitability stage, and then we continue. That's why sales matter. Beyond that point, engagement is the focus.
Yeah, I agree. As like developers, the one of the most thing they want is they want people to actually play their game. But anyway, before we jump into our like major topic, I am gonna ask each one of you just to touch briefly the next Xbox hardware. What do you want it to be? Like, there's been many rumors. There's a rumor that there's a revision coming, a digital version of the Series X. We heard about a hybrid, handheld, kind of like the Switch. We heard of just a handheld. We have heard of, I even heard once, very, very powerful Xbox that's going to cost, more money. What would you personally want it to be? And I'll start with you, Silent.
Oh, goodness.
Your choice. You're in charge.
I'm in. That's not a good idea. There's a reason why I'm not one of these guys up in these companies. Um, I I would probably say like a dockable hybrid. Um, I think something that's become very clear over the last year or so
You see, Lou?
is
He loves his Switch.
no,
Proof.
no. Don't play that game.
That's
Don't
his
play that game.
dream.
No.
What,
My
the
dream,
Switch?
my dream is to have a portable,
He-
dockable system that
Yeah, that's what he
doesn't
wants, a
just
Switch.
have the same 3 games every year for 40 years. I give zero craps about that. I do not care. Like,
You
guess
see how
what?
Everborn wants them to buy Xbox to buy Sega? Silent Cypher every day is like, please buy Nintendo, please buy
No,
Nintendo.
no, they can.
Oh,
You know
Lord.
what? Nintendo made it very clear that they like being the weird one that's over in the corner just doing their own thing. I'm okay with them over in their corner doing their own thing. It's easier for me to ignore it and just focus on what other people are doing. Um, but going back before you rose my blood pressure a little bit. Um, no, so that's the thing, right? Is like, yes, I will give Nintendo the fact that the Switch has been a massive success for them. The thing for me though is like we've seen these handheld consoles come out recently where you're able to access Steam, EA, Xbox Game Pass, like you're able to access all these different libraries. And for me, I think that's the path forward. We talked about it previously, and we'll continue to talk about it obviously as time goes on. But the physical element of this stuff is not going to be around forever. And the fact that you can have something like that where you can access multiple marketplaces, right? Like I could be playing God of War on my ROG Ally, and I could bounce right over and be playing Halo if I wanted to within a minute. And to have that functionality to be able to play all those ecosystems whenever I want, however I want, like personally for me, that's what I prefer. I think that's great. I still really enjoy the ecosystem for Xbox, which gets me excited about the idea of a console that's built with that specific UI. If they're going to dial into something that's only Xbox targeted, I think that's cool in the fact that I've always preferred their UI. I really enjoy their ecosystem. So that would be really cool. I think if we saw something more akin to like your tier like Fold, or like seeing like the ROG Ally or stuff where you actually have an OS that you can bounce into and play other libraries, though, I think that's really cool. And I do like the option to dock if I'm in that situation. Like if I have time to just sit there on the couch and I want to play on the big screen, I think that is awesome. Like having those EPUs and stuff like what Mr. Dark was showing us on his video, stuff like that's really cool. And I think that that's probably a path forward because it allows you to make your experience more modular, and you can upgrade it to what you want. It's just like with a computer system, right? Is like you can get a bare bones low end system and play some games on it, or you can expand, you can add more to it, you can play bigger games, and you can do whatever you want, however you want to do it. The flexibility is something I like. I don't like having to customize and get like all the settings squared away. But again, that goes away if you have like with the new Xbox, if you have the UI and the whole setup we have right now for the Xbox, if you already have that ecosystem and that's what you're playing in, it's very it's very very straightforward for people. Like anyone who's ever played in the Xbox side of things for the last decade knows the layout of those systems. And so I think that would be a benefit for them. Hybrid console. Sorry, I feel like I talked for a long time. Did I? Are you guys still awake?
Yeah,
No,
really.
real awake, real awake. Yeah, okay, okay. How about you, Lou? What's your choice of what's your console?
What's my console? I want a handheld and I want a really powerful console. I mean, so powerful they could even fry my TV. That's how powerful I want it. I want it to be able even to cook burgers. That's what I wanted to do, man. I want something real powerful, man. Real powerful. That's what I would like. That's what I would like. I mean, listen, they invested what was it? 15 billion these days on Intel. I mean, oh baby, next gen is gonna be really interesting. I mean, if they do make that handheld, it's gonna be my go everywhere thing. And even though it can't be docked, I wouldn't care. I will still take it with me everywhere. And if I get that powerful console, oh man, I will get that just to play on the TV. The handheld is for me to take everywhere. I need that. I need Xbox to do that. It would be freaking fantastic. That's what I would love for the Xbox hardware. Not only that, I would also like I would like them to find a way to get Steam, or I don't know how the heck they're gonna do it to get Steam over to the Xbox. I don't know how they're gonna do it, but to get like Steam games over to Xbox. I mean, can you imagine? Because right now with the Steam Deck, you all you gotta do is grab it and play your games. Can you imagine like Steam having
Well,
being partners? You can play it on there. That'd be crazy.
Louis, I mean, think about it this way: you could easily bake it in, so you've already, again, just like the ROG Ally experience, just
Yeah,
like those, they primarily use Windows 11.
exactly.
So you can easily, like, you could set something up like this where you could have it as maybe a dual partition if you even wanted to, where you had your Xbox UI, like where it drops you right into the Xbox experience,
Hmm.
or to like a hub, right? You can go right to that, or you could bounce over to the actual OS where you could go in, you could use other launchers as well. If you wanted to. I don't know if that's what they would want to do, but I mean, it would allow. I would argue it would allow them a higher price point than if they locked it down just to their specific ecosystem.
And
Yeah.
you know what would be awesome if that happens? That way we can get PlayStation games, on the Xbox.
Oh my
Pork
god.
begging.
For better. Yeah, I was actually gonna say, for me personally, I just want them to make like kind of like a OS where it's kind of like Windows, but super light, and it's more focused towards the gamer. Something that doesn't have all the unnecessary things. I know there's Windows that you can kind of install that kind of doesn't have all those things, but is I don't feel it's fully optimized to its potential for like you know for like if you want to have a PC kind of console experience, if you want to have a handheld, you know experience, kind of like a console. I feel like if they go that route, they could still make hardware, but they don't really have to. And at the end of the day, they do specialize in software. That's what Microsoft is very like it's well known for. So I personally like if they do that, I can just install that in my ROG Ally and for my like PC. Like I can leave Windows and then do like a separate Windows for that OS, and when I want to play, I go into that OS, and when I want to do anything work related, I go into the normal Windows 11. So, Dutch, what about you? What's your dream Xbox console?
Yeah, I mean, with a handheld, obviously, it's no big surprise that that's definitely in development, and that's what they're looking at now. We spoke to them at Gamescom about it. Spoke to the hardware team at Gamescom about it, and they were asking us very, very deep questions about what we would like in a handheld and what price point we wanted and what features we wanted, etc. So we've had that conversation with the hardware team in person. So they're definitely looking into it, and obviously much more than I think a lot of these rumors as well are kind of saying, oh yeah, they're looking into a handheld. I know they are because they've asked personally, what do we want in a handheld? Okay, I'm going to tell you what I want in a handheld. It needs to be native gaming, no cloud. Don't want this cloud nonsense.
Exactly.
Everything needs
No,
to be
nothing
native.
like that. No, 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 no.
Yeah,
Especially here. No, 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 no.
The
native.
option if
What
you
I,
want it, but not mandatory.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, obviously, cloud's good for when you want to test something before you download it, but ultimately, I don't want to be playing games on the cloud, especially if you're traveling. Like that makes the game, like the handheld, entirely useless if you're traveling. Like, not all airlines, like believe it or not all airlines have Wi-Fi on them. Like that is a select amount of high-end airlines have Wi-Fi on for long distance. Not all of them do. Even TUI, one of the biggest airlines in the world, do not have Wi-Fi on their planes.
No, no. But is the Wi?
So,
But
and
is the
that's their
Wi-Fi
biggest. And
good on the
TUI,
plane though?
outside of British Airways, TUI is the biggest airline in the UK as well. So, um, and specifically where I'm in, which is the north of England, there is no British Airways really for long distance. It's all TUI. So if I was going over to the US, it would be through TUI. So there is no Wi-Fi. So if I was to play a game, the only way I can play a portable game at the moment is to bring a Switch. I don't have a ROG Ally. I've got no need for one and things at the moment because I have a PC. But ultimately, in terms of handheld, as long as it's native gaming, it has an OLED screen, and it's there or thereabouts as powerful as the console that they put out as a whole, um, then that is ultimately what I would love to see from a handheld. In terms of dream console, though, I wish both of these manufacturers would stop putting the word Pro on a console for what is the equivalent of adding more RAM.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to do a Pro console, make it a Pro console because the only people buying Pro consoles are hardcore gamers. There's nobody
Oh,
else buying the Pro version that doesn't want the biggest and the best. So if you're going to do that, then give the biggest and the best and give the all bells and whistles.
yeah.
Secondarily, for everybody, stop putting 16 gig of RAM in these consoles, please. Like that is like the first thing you do when you get a PC is go upgrade the RAM. I am not putting 16 gig in there because that's going to be slow as hell. Like crank that up, 32 minimum. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't understand why consoles are still going on 16 shade. By the way, shade 16,
Yeah, they're
not
stuck in
full
the old days
16.
when 16 was like if you had 16 back then.
You're the
Yeah,
man.
the good
16
old
was
days.
was money back in the
They
day.
wonder
Yeah.
why they've got drawbacks. They wonder why they're struggling with performance issues. Like some of these big AAA games are chugging away with 16 gig of RAM. On PC, if you try to do some of these games at the settings that you've got with 16 gig, you would get nowhere. It'd chug.
Didn't
So why
Nintendo had
why are
like
you forcing console players into still doing that? Like, please, it doesn't cost much. It doesn't. You can get 32 gig of like high end 32 RPM DDR4 and now DDR5 for less than $100.
Yeah.
Dutch,
So
It's
why are we
not
still doing
expensive.
16 gig in a console? I don't understand it.
Dutch, and please, I'm begging for this. More space. I'm tired of
Yeah,
these damn games. 300
yeah.
what GB, and all of a sudden you only
Two
have five.
terabit should be the baseline. 2 terabit,
Jesus,
and 32 gig of RAM should be the baseline for a console now.
yes.
Absolutely.
Dear
Um,
Lord.
and ultimately, what I'd love to see them do, both of them, is go away from APUs. Get away from APU.
Oh,
Get away from that. Not even gaming laptops have APUs. So why are we still doing consoles with an APU layout?
yeah.
Do a separate CPU, GPU. You can get small form factor GPUs. Then you can get, in terms of RAM, that becomes an upgradability thing. Maybe you start with 16 gig, and every game is that way. But both consoles are on x86. They're both created with PC in mind now. All games that they create have PC in mind as a day one launch going forward. So why would you restrict your console? And it's still going to be simple plug and play. You're still going to plug it in. You still download the game and you play it. Don't have to faff around. It's still going to be nice and easy. But it doesn't mean you can't have the upgradability options that
That-
align with PC, where you can go out and you can just change the SSD like PlayStation have done, although they've made it awkward. Change the SSD like PlayStation have done, like with normal PC parts that you can get, although it has to suit their specific requirements. And same with RAM. If you want to upgrade that to 32 gig or 64 gig, just have the RAM slots like you would in a laptop or a PC. It doesn't take
But
up much space. You can still
Okay.
do it. And in terms of affordability, it means you can start the cap on the console pretty low. You can start it at 400 because you've still got 16 gig and you've still got this, but you have the slots available for people to upgrade and
but
go
I,
that
I
way.
think
If
right
you want to create
there
a
then it
pro console, then put the big bells and whistles in it and charge like 700 or 800 for a bells and whistles pro, because the only people that buy the pros are hardcore anyway, and they don't care about what the price is for a pro. They just want the best. So do that. That's what I want. That's my dream.
I think right there though, however, I'm gonna kind of like go a little bit against it in the fact that it's what you mentioned right there is kind of a PC right there. So I think just
But these
making the
consoles are PCs
OS
just for
would kind of solve that
aesthetics.
issue.
But here,
Yeah, you
okay,
see what I would love though for Xbox to do, because everyone knows this and everyone hates it. The Microsoft Store on PC and
Oh,
Windows
it
is
sucks.
terrible.
Yeah.
Like, the one thing I would love for them to do is go, if you think about the Xbox OS, Steam have something called Big Picture for people who don't game on PCs. That is basically their console OS for PC. You can just view Steam if you want, or if you go Steam Big Picture, that's essentially looking at your Steam dashboard with your games and just being able to click on the games that you've got installed and play them. Simple as that. It's nice and easy. Xbox need their OS as a big picture variant, I think, for PC. So you can go on and you've got your dashboard, you can see all the PC games you've got installed, regardless of where they are or what you play them on, because ultimately it's just a dashboard. And if you're playing on PC, on an Xbox Dash, because we've seen it, if you log in on your Xbox now, you can see people playing games that aren't on Xbox. And it tells you exactly what game that is on Xbox. It's like, oh, such and such is playing this game. And you're like, that's on Steam though. So why am I
Yeah.
getting a notification? Why is it showing on Xbox that he's playing
Mhm.
that? It's because ultimately they don't care. You can still do it on the OS, and it provides that one ecosystem, or essentially that one UI that transfers across them all. I want them to do that on PC, so it makes it a little bit more user-friendly experience. And again, the store in itself just needs a dramatic overhaul. But I think ultimately for PC and consoles are just mini PCs. The difference is they don't have the upgradability features that PCs have.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I think ultimately, if you make that user-friendly version of upgrading, it's okay. Like, it's really, as they've attempted to do with Xbox's SSD on the back, but they've just ultimately priced themselves out of being worthwhile. Like, why would you spend 200 on 1 terabit when you can spend £50 for the same equivalent in SSD? Like, it's like, What would you like? They've just priced themselves out. So I appreciate the work that they've done to create this small form factor plug and play device, but ultimately, cost wise for the consumer, it doesn't make much sense.
Yeah.
If you go back to making it nice and easy, if you just like have a little thing that pops open at the back and you can go, okay, well, there's the SSD slot and there's the RAM slot, literally just at the back. You go, poop, okay,
You,
plug and play, nice and
you,
easy. And they can
you know,
just
you could.
Oh,
advertise their certified versions like PlayStation do.
Mhm.
oh,
Sp-
okay.
s-
Because if you put it that simple, yeah. Because can you imagine me installing SSD inside of a console? Oh Lord,
You don't want to go. You
Yeah.
don't want to go too in depth. Ultimately, you don't want to
oh
go to the
Lord.
point where you're doing like, okay, you can upgrade your CPU and your GPU. I think that's a bit that would be too excessive for the average consumer. But ultimately, just having nice, simple to access, easy to access RAM and SSD ports in order to upgrade them on the back. Like a little, like I say, just a little pull down section there, and you can just nice, easy to access, plug and play, boop, plug it
You know,
open. That would be
you could.
fine. They're the only things you really require for the console, especially RAM. That's such the most easiest thing you can do to increase performance across anything. So they're
Got RAM.
the basic steps. I wouldn't say GPU, CPU. I think if we're going to go higher performing GPUs and CPUs, then that's where the pro console needs the extra money and beef it right up and things like that. But they shouldn't be customizable on console. They just leave them how they are.
Mm.
Speaking about extra money, you know
Yeah.
who needed extra money? Sony.
Me. Oh, me.
Yeah. So
We'll change into the next topic. There.
That was a violent. Yeah, that was a violent change to
That
this.
was
My
about.
goodness.
I was.
I was actually looking to change for a while. I was looking for the right chance, but didn't want to interrupt. But yeah, so our big topic, Sony is Sony in crisis? Like, what's going on in Sony? Um, you're gonna hate me for this, Silent, but I gotta kind of take a small little break. So I'm gonna let you introduce the topic.
Thanks.
So I'll
Thanks
be
for
right
the.
back.
Thanks for the heads up.
Breaker, breaker. Silent, take
so
the time. Take the time.
so
Wait, where's my watch?
so go
Breaker,
ahead,
breaker.
Silent. Let people know
All right.
what's going on with Sony.
Chat, please take the time. Silent's going to do another record breaking right now. Take the time. Thank you. Go ahead, Silent.
Yeah, you're gonna have to give me a second since Champ didn't give me any warning,
Didn't give me any
and
word.
it's not even in there. So yeah, I guess the biggest thing with this whole situation that we've been in over the last, well, I don't know. I mean, this has been happening for a long time, but obviously it's hit kind of like a culmination with all these new surprises and everything that's been occurring recently.
Mhm.
Um, you know, we find Sony in a situation where we constantly have heard, oh, it's only the house of the big AAA, over the shoulder games. It's always this big thing, like it has to be big bombastic games. And we saw something like a Spider-Man 2. We saw how that turned out. Um and we're starting to see cracks in the armor, as
Uh-oh.
it were, in regards to some of these occurrences. Like obviously we saw Jim Ryan cash out his chips, cashed out
Mhm.
his monopoly money, and said, "I'm out."
And
And
that was the warning, Silent. That was the
that was
warning for
that was
everybody.
one of many
That was the biggest
warnings.
one. I mean, retired CEO, and now 2 or 3 days later, he sells his shares. I mean, guys, after I saw that, I said, "Whoop!" In a couple months, Sony going downhill. That's what a smart businessman would do.
But yeah, so to
Oh,
preface it,
Silent, you there? Did Silent do
yeah,
another power outage?
can you hear me?
Dutch, are you
Yeah, yeah,
there?
I'm still there.
Oh, he's still there, but he
Can
sounds
you
muted though.
can
Silent,
you
you're
hear me?
muted. Um, Silent, you're muted, bro. Oh, okay, you're silent. But yeah, Dutch, we are seeing that Sony for over the past years, right? We've seen them share these numbers. We see
Yeah.
them always say, okay, we're doing really well. We have 15 million PlayStations sold. We have 10 million of this game sold. We have a whole bunch of things going on for the past couple of years. But like I said, we talked about this a little bit earlier. I sat down, I did the numbers, and the numbers never add up. And one day, this whole thing was going to go kaboom, and actually did happen. I mean, look, it happened right now. I mean, we saw Jim Ryan retire. After he retired, like I said, the biggest warning of them all was this man sold his shares. It's not like Bill Gates when he retired from what's it called, from Microsoft. He still has his shares over there. He still have his action. He still has everything over there. You know, he has everything right over there. But dang, this guy retires, and 2 or 3 days later, boom, he's out. He says, "Okay, I'm out. Let me sell my shares. Let's leave this thing away." Because damn, look what happened. A couple months later, we see Sony go downhill. Dutch, question for you: did you expect this to happen or no?
In terms of sustainability, yeah, you can see it happen a mile off, and that's not just for Sony. Of course, it's industry wide. It's
Yeah.
they're trying to navigate the new norm, which is things aren't as profitable as they need them to be. Um, we have also saw EA today make large cuts as well, but they've also made a statement which I think kind of speaks to um, some of the other costings that are simply just not affordable when it comes to making large scale games, and that is um, licensed IPs. They've as we can speak on now, because I don't think it wasn't on the topic, so we'll bring it up as part of it. But um, they've reportedly cancelled their Mandalorian game at EA, and they're shifting away from franchised IPs or licensed IPs, and focusing on predominantly just their own IP going forward. And that's because of the costing side of things. We learned on Sony's side the costings of Spider-Man 2 in order to have that license and pay that license fee
Hmm.
for that, and that was significant. It was significant. It was like 100 million out of that 300 million that it cost to create was all to do with the licensing and Spider-Man as an IP in itself. Um, and ultimately, it's creating, when people are wanting these big licensed IPs, they come with a cost. They come with a significant cost that they have to pay the license owner to. So when Disney are going, okay, yeah, you can create X, Y, and Z game, all of those games come with essentially a license fee that they have to pay in order to make that game, regardless of if they've got the honor to make that game in the first place. It's a significant cost that they've got to think about on top of development costs. And then you've got people's wages going up to match inflation. And myself being in the energy game, energy costs, as everyone knows, worldwide are through the roof, predominantly in Europe, more so than anywhere else. Energy costs have been the highest increases anywhere.
Hmm.
Um, so when you're talking about the actual cost of creating a game, you've also got to think of the fact that energy costs have went up by an average of 150%
Damn.
um, over the last 2 years. And in the worst part of it, you were looking at kind of at least 200 to 300% in the worst parts of it. So costings for running a studio, especially if you have a studio of your own, the energy costings for the servers that you have to maintain for those, specifically if the studio is open for a significant amount of time. And then you've got the salaries that are increasing for the staff. You've got the staff benefits that go on top of that. So, of course, you've got things like staff pensions, you've got staff healthcare. All of this is things that the company pays for as well as the staff. And then you've got the generic kind of day-to-day running of the studio. You've got the actors that you've got to hire for these things that aren't cheap, and you've got the whether or not you've got your own recording equipment. Like everything is going up. And you've got the materials, and which is why we're seeing the shift from physical to digital as well. The material sales and the material distribution and the material costs. And when you're looking at consoles, there's a real limitation on the amount of chip manufacturers there are worldwide. So, in terms of actual chip costs, they're dictated to by 2 or 3 chip manufacturers worldwide. So if they decide that the costs of chip manufacturing is going up because they've got their own costs to maintain, like energy and staff and the parts and the materials, etc.
The
If they decide it's
resources.
going up, then everyone's paying more.
Yep.
So ultimately, this was all going to come to a head because of what's been happening in the last few years. And everyone talks about the pandemic, but ultimately it's a culmination of many things, many world factors. You've got the pandemic. You've got 2 consecutive wars going on side by side at the moment, both in Gaza and Palestine, as well as Russia and Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
Then, of course, you look over to Yemen, and of course the US getting involved there. And these are all having a knock-on effects to worldwide distribution, which is having a knock-on effect on gas and oil prices and parts and shipping and everything. So it's everything is costing more. And ultimately, when people are saying, yeah, well, you shouldn't have to get rid of staff, but ultimately, if it's not just about getting rid of staff, it's about streamlining operations. And as much as people hate to hear that staff need to go, it's you have to look at it from a different perspective. It's okay, what is essential, what is not essential? How many staff do we have doing the same job? How many developers we have that are ultimately kind of what we say is too many cooks spoil the broth, but how many people are doing the same thing? Do we have 55 animators and 6 of those are doing like specific character animations on the same characters? Like one of them's doing this part and the other part's doing this part. Can this guy not do both of those parts? Is ultimately the way that they're going to kind of look at things. Okay, is which guy is the more proficient? Which guy's doing more for the company? Which guy is better at the job? And they look at these things in order to streamline operations, make things smoother. A lot of big studio heads have said over the years as well that they prefer to keep their teams smaller because it means that there's less people kind of confusing what they need to do. There's less people that they need to report to. There's less people getting involved in the ideas and confusing the situation. Even before all of this kicked off, we had the same issue with the initiative. They had like 5 or 6 like really awesome, like top tier directors working at the studio. Why do you need that many people with that many different ideas working on a singular IP? You don't ultimately, and they left because there was too many people trying to get the same, like different ideas across, and ultimately it wasn't going to work. At the bottom line of it, the reason we're in this situation now is long time coming. There's been mass hiring, there's been mass growth in the tech sector in general, and overall, even to now, even with all these layoffs, there's still a significant increase in the amount of people in the tech sector than there ever has been. There's still more people now in the tech sector and working in the game industry than there ever has been. It looks all doom and gloom now, but ultimately, there's still more staff this year than there was the year before, or the year before, or the year before, or the year before, even after the layoffs. Like Microsoft hired more than 20 or 30,000 people for Xbox over the COVID period, and out of those 20 or 30,000 that they hired, I think is around company wide about 10,000 have been laid off since last year. So you still increased your amount of people that you've got working at the company by 20,000 over the year before that as a net. So it's not that you've just let some of these people go. Some of them are on temporary contracts, some of them are shorter contracts. Um, you've got, again, certain people that are just surplus to requirement. As much as people hate to hear that, it's not a personal matter. Ultimately, if a company needs to make a strategic change and downsize in order to make more profitability, there are taxes. It's not just a wage that they're paying taxes on everybody that's there. They're paying all of these benefits out to everybody. They've also got to make the process of game development more streamlined so that game development is quicker. Now, if you've got too many people doing one thing, it doesn't make game development shorter. Unbelievably, it makes it longer because more people are involved, which makes communication more muddled. You tend to find the reason AA and indie studios are doing so well and getting games out quicker is because there's less people working on them. You're talking like 100 people or less for some of these games, and they're coming out in 2-3 years, not 7 or 8. The vast majority of the time, these big games, these big AAA IPs, are taking 7 or 8 years to make, is because they've got that many people involved in making the game that it takes a lot of communication internally in order to get deadlines hit. Okay, so why isn't this done on time? Okay, we need to go back and we need to fix this. Why is this? And then these two teams are having different views, and these two teams are having different views, and ultimately it just gets convoluted. And it's not to justify people not having jobs, but unfortunately, part of the issue with the industry is you've got too many people at these studios, and it's convoluting the matter, and the games are taking too long to come out. And the longer the game development goes, the more it costs year on year. If you've got 200 staff on an average wage of 80,000 per year, and then you times that over the course of like a 7-year dev cycle, if it's meant to take 4 years to come out, and then all of a sudden it gets delayed 2 years, that's another 2 years worth of 200 staff on 80,000
Yeah.
a year. It really starts racking up. So when they make a decision to delay a game, that's also another significant cost that they've got to put on there. So these are things that have to be pull back. Like, some of these studios need to be streamlined. We've got too many people at some of these studios. We need to kind of dial things back a bit, reevaluate where we're going here. What is profitable? What isn't? How many of these big AAA games are realistic? And when do we need to downscale and get some of these studios making on smaller titles that are quicker to get out? Not necessarily harming how good they are, because we've seen, especially this year, how good AA titles have been. Like Banisher's Ghosts of New Eden, fantastic title. That's a small studio. If you have a look at Plague Tale Requiem, that's another small studio. Like, these are really high quality games that have been out over the last couple of years, and they don't have 300-400 people working on it, and yet they are really successful, really high quality in terms of graphical and audio and you name it, technical as well. Absolutely fantastic. Again, as Rachie in the chat there is saying, Obsidian, when they're not only working on multiple projects, but they had 12 people working on Grounded.
Grounded. Wow. Yep.
Yeah.
Grounded's got like 20 odd million players now, 25 million players or something ridiculous. From 12 people. Like, that is what you call profitable.
Yep.
And this is where the whole industry needs to, and it's specifically the Sony crisis, for them, the main issue has been the fact that Xbox has been able, as much as Xbox has let go of a lot of people, Xbox is able to pivot onto something else really quickly, or able to pivot on other projects, because they've always had the ability to have their hands in other things. Okay, we've loved RTS. We do a lot of multiplayer. We do some single player. We do smaller titles. We do bigger titles. We do mid-range titles. They're not afraid to pivot and do what they need to do in order to get any kind of title out, to get projects out left, right, and center. Sony, unfortunately, their main issue is they've been focused for several years now, specifically the PlayStation 4 onwards, on AAA single-player narrative experiences. And they take so long. Like, how many, outside of Insomniac, what other studios produced this generation?
Other than remakes.
Other than a remake, which is a quick cash grab. It is. Sony will probably admit it as well. It is a quick cash grab. Took them about a year to do that.
Service games,
and then they sell it for $70. Like, outside of that, Insomniac have been carrying them. God of War and Horizon were cross-gen titles. This generation, there's been nothing. And Sony now realise, listen, these big AAA titles are taking far too long to come out, and we're paying a lot of money for these to get made, but we're not making the money quick enough in return. Like, it's all well and good investing 300 million in a title, but if that title takes 7 years to arrive, you're not making that money back for 7 years. So for those 7 years, you're 300 million in the deficit. There's no money coming from that studio for 7 years. None.
Nope.
So
Yeah.
you've got to try and this is Sony's issue, is they have to try and diversify. Ultimately, that's what they need to do, and I think that's what they're going to do. Other than just the PC thing, they're going to focus more on experiences like Helldivers and smaller AA and kind of indie-ish titles, and diversify the portfolio so they've got a steady stream of games coming out, regardless of size, and that ultimately is going to help them as a company going forwards, as well as putting in onto multiple platforms. But the Sony crisis is just an industry crisis. It's a lot of hiring, a lot of pivoting to need in order to kind of become profitable once more and become sustainable. Not so much profitability, but sustainable. It's all well and good investing a lot of money, but if you don't get that money back for 10 years, it's going to cause issues.
It's gonna hurt, like Jim Ryan said when the whole ABK deal was happening. If you take Call of Duty away, we are doom and gloom. It's incredible what a third-party game can do. I mean, that literally, like I said, all the warnings were out there. I mean, 10 billion lost right now. Um, PlayStation, no matter how many consoles they sell, because like I said, I don't understand how these numbers add up. Same thing with the exclusives. I mean, people kept on telling me, "Hey Lou, PlayStation has got the best exclusives."
You know what it is, Louis? I said this the other day as well, and I said this
I
on
don't get it.
another show the other day. With regards to console sales, you can't it's all well and good Sony beating the drum on console sales,
No.
but ultimately you can't really
Survive.
you can't really say that's a win in the middle of a generation. Like, it's all well and good saying it now. Oh, we've done 55 million new consoles, great. And how many of those were just upgrades from the previous gen? Like, have you got new customers, or are these just returning customers buying an upgrade? Because if it's just an upgrade customer, then you're not ultimately gaining new players. You're not gaining any more people playing your console. You're just getting people shifting from PlayStation 4 to 5.
The 5,
So that's not a new sale. That's an upgrade. That's still the same purchase. People purchasing your games. It's not new people purchasing your games. So it's not really. We can't judge its success now. And so I think this is what a lot of people in general need to understand. Like, at the end of the generation, if Microsoft have got 40 odd million consoles sold, if you compare that versus Xbox One generation, that's pretty much in line, which means there hasn't been growth, but they haven't lost anyone. On PlayStation side, if they finish the generation and they're on 120 odd million sold, that's exactly the same thing. You haven't actually made any difference to what your player base is. It's still the same. Still got the same players. The same people are still buying your games. You're not gaining new customers. So the console sale metric, I think, is irrelevant until the end of a generation. If at the end of the generation, Sony go, okay, we've managed to sell 150 million PlayStation 5s, then you go, right, they've gained 30 million new players, which means they've gained 30 million new people buying things.
But
in the middle of a gen, you don't know what that number means. You could
No.
have 50 million people just upgrading.
Exactly.
So
You don't know. That's the whole point. You don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, the other day we were talking about this, and not we mentioned this, right? We talked about this, and I mentioned that when you sit down and you look at all the generations that have come by, the number doesn't go up to. I mean, doesn't get past to most. I think 600 million people have bought consoles in the history. That's the top. I'm saying, like, if you add them all together, that is the top of the line, probably 600 million. But it's my number is between 300 million people to 500 million that actually buy consoles. Yet on PC, you see people every day buying PCs. You see people every day, buying cell phones, switching cell phones. You see people
Tablets.
tablets
Well,
and all this stuff.
speaking on PC, actually,
Yeah.
very briefly, because I don't want to drag this out, but you saw Nvidia the other day talking about their profits, and they've significantly grown, by the way, worth now 2 trillion.
Oh wow.
But they announced that the RTX cards, which is the 30 series upwards, have now got 100 million people have bought an RTX card,
Imagine that,
which is the
100
30
million.
series and 40 series.
So this is what I'm saying, though. I mean, consoles at the end of the day, they reach a number, and they haven't been surpassing this number for like the longest of years. And what I see is that, for example, me, I'm a recurrent console buyer. I mean, every time a new generation comes, I said, okay, let me upgrade all my consoles. I'm still that same console guy, like you mentioned. All I did was upgrade. I Now I just carried my games over here to this new one, and now I'm playing my old games. I'm playing here on the new one. So that's what I did. I just upgraded. So at the end of the day, like I said, they mentioned like, oh yeah, we sold 50 million consoles. I mean, that number just doesn't do anything for them. Not only that, also the profit they're probably making is really low. This is why they because it's funny. We saw them wave the white flag first, right? What I mean by wave the white flag first is saying like, okay, we're going third party. They were the ones who came out, actually said it, and nobody talks about this. Not a whole bunch. Like, what are they gonna do? How are they gonna strategize? But I've been saying it for years. If Sony would have released their games PC day one, things would have been different. I mean, the numbers would have been a lot more higher than what they do by just bundling or just holding it here to this console. This is why Microsoft has done this. Microsoft said, let's put our games out there because why? There are more PC players out there than there is console players. Now they're going to mobile. Now they're going everywhere, and this is why Sony said, "Okay, let me change my strategy now. Let me go everywhere because on the software side of things is where the money is made. Because on hardware, the more you upgrade, because this is where Nintendo played it safe. Nintendo played it safe on this side of things. This is why Nintendo is doing so well. I don't know how much the production cost of that console, but we all
About
know
£5.
it's
It's like a Galaxy S7 and that thing.
I mean,
Yeah.
dang, it's an old. The chips are old. Everything is old. But they make these games and they don't do all these graphical upgrades like these consoles do. I mean, probably those games probably cost like 50 million, 60 million, 100 million. I don't know how much they cost, but at the end of the day, they throw it out there and they're already sold 1 million copies, 2 million copies. They're already made with the cost of the damn game, and they're already making profit. It's crazy. That's why I said Nintendo is on the safe side of things.
Yeah, it's crazy. You know what's my one fear with everything that's happening right now in the whole industry is because like if you look at the industry like right now, the only people that are really taking like the high chances are probably the indie developers, and you rarely see these big studios taking chances. A few of them does. And now that, the bigger companies, they're seeing that sometimes these huge AAA games, they're a big risk, and they don't, they see things being successful as High Diver, as Power World,
High
etc.
diver, you mean hell divers?
Hell Diver, yeah. High
High
Diver,
diver. Say,
Hell
what's
Diver,
that game?
sorry.
I want to play that.
My fear is that the bigger companies won't take any risks from now on. And then, because I understand, I want Sony, for example, to have, continue to have the big experience, but they definitely need more of the smaller, kind of game, kind of like what Wonder and Dutch
I
said
think Xbox
earlier.
does. I think Xbox does because we've seen that with Grounded and things like that. But Sony absolutely need to pivot.
Yeah,
Yeah, they do.
they definitely
They
need to
do.
pivot.
They need to
But
pivot.
also, like, I'm afraid that, because I know Phil Spencer want us, for example, or at least that's what he says, right? He wants us to also have the big AAA experience. But my fear is that he gets a call from higher up, like Satya Nadella. He says, "Listen, I don't want high risk games anymore. I want games that you know don't have that big of a risk." And then that would kind of affect, I would say, the evolution of gaming in the future if this continues to happen. So that's kind of a fear that I have with how things are moving. I don't know if you guys feel the same.
Yeah, I think it's always going to be a risk when you've got the corporate involved, and we've seen that with Sony anyway, with the CF4 and COO
Yep.
come out and say we need to re-strategize, we need to pivot because it isn't sustainable the way we're doing things. And ultimately, he's talking specifically on AAA development because that's as great as it is for these games, and these games are fantastic when they put them out, and we all love the games that they put out, like Ghost of Tsushima and Days Gone and Horizon and God of War. Fantastic games. There's absolutely no denying it, and The Last of Us, etc. But ultimately, the bottom line is when the top dogs are looking at it, they're going, that's like 200 million every time, and we don't see a return on that for like 6 years
Oof,
at
yeah.
least. And like
Crazy.
then we have a wave one year where we've got like 2 or 3 of them coming out, and then we recoup the money in one go. But then we've got another 5 or 6 years until we see a recoup on the next game.
Mm-hmm.
Like essentially, they're just, as soon as they're making the money back, it's going straight into the next project, and that so this is the development hell cycle that you've got. Is you say, okay, it was profitable, it made like $200 million, great. That $200 million is already well spent on the next project that's already in development now, and then it's this vicious loop. So the actual like profit margin that they've got for these games is probably less than 100 million for some of these AAAs. When you take into a fact that it's actually already been reinvested into the next one that they're making. On the flip side, like I say, I think Microsoft have already pivoted themselves to the part that they want to be. Okay, we'll just get all these random things out. Like we'll try Pentiment, and we'll give Pal World a chance on Xbox and see how that does. And the Pal World devs were saying that we were going to be over the moon if we got 100,000 people playing it, and they ended up with 25 million. Like, like it completely like surprised them, and that's why Xbox are blowing the trumpet on that one. But ultimately, like you say, the risk factor. I think the one thing Phil Spencer has in his locker to be able to go to Satya and say, listen, we're not just focusing on these big. Yes, we've got big AAA games in the pipeline. We've got a lot of big AAA studios, but we've got a bucket load of smaller experiences that are also there that will fill the gaps in the meantime and bring in revenue for yourselves. Sony, up until now, haven't had that until Helldivers released. And even then, the vast majority of that, as we know, has been PC and not PlayStation. So then comes into the fact that PlayStation goes, okay, we definitely need to pivot over to PC because that's, if it doesn't hit on console, then at least we've got a backup of revenue streams on PC. And at least the game in itself becomes profitable on that front, because if it was just console, then we would possibly not have the same success story that Helldivers has seen. And then they've got to look at pivot into other things. Then they would look at things like Destruction All Stars or whatever it is that they brought out, and they'd go, oh God, that didn't work. And then the hierarchy would get potentially scared at the fact that that game didn't work. Okay, do we take a risk on another small idea or not? And that's the thing that I think Sony need to get past. They just need to go, you know what it is? Come up with some ideas, like big, small. Ultimately, we want to hear them all, and we'll greenlight a bunch of smaller projects and see how they do. Like,
Yeah.
give these guys a chance to create some of these smaller things and see how they do, because you never know. You just never know how these things take off. You might have the next Vampire Survivors in there somewhere. You might have the next Pal World. You might have the next Helldivers from these smaller little sections, these little diverts off from the big teams. You might have a little gem in there or a gem of an idea. Until you give it a chance, you never know. And these little projects don't require 100 million. Like, half of them just require the staff wage to cover the costs of the staff, as opposed to the development. Okay, you've already got the equipment, everything's there, right? You've come up with the idea. We're going to give you time. Get a project, like a little project together. Show it to us. If we're happy with it, we'll keep going with it, and we'll keep funding you to create that project upon its release. Those little games are going to go digital only initially, but that's what it takes in order to diversify and get new projects on out there, and then potentially become something bigger. Like nobody thought Grounded would be going to be as big as it is, but it is, and because it's so popular, now they're going, okay, let's get it other places, let's make it even more popular, and ultimately that could result in that game getting a second. Same for
Yep.
Sea of Thieves. Like Sea of Thieves, ultimately, it's big, it's popular, it's got 35 million players. But in order to make sure, okay, this is super popular, let's see how popular it is if it's everywhere. Can we greenlight a big one, like a second? Right? Yeah. Awesome. It's now hit 45 million players. Terrific. Right? That is 100% sustainable. We can greenlight a second one, whilst the first one continues to have its active player base that's constantly funding it. So it's like a self-sustainable thing. And these little games like Pentiment have their niche audiences, but they cost ultimately next to nothing to create. So when they do sell, it's pretty much automatically profitable.
Yep.
So this is the bonuses of pivoting and giving chances is that they do that. The bottom line is though, is that like Phil Spencer, they have ammunition to go to the big hierarchy and go, listen, we can continue to make these big games, and we're capable of making these smaller games as well that fit in that little spot in between. That's what Phil Spencer can do. So I think in the terms of the risk value for Xbox, I think they've got far less of a risk issue. They've already been there. They've already done that and diversified. Sony are in that transition period now, and they need to try and pivot quickly in order to become sustainable going forward.
Agreed.
Correct. Yeah. Speaking of taking risks, as we approach landing, we got to jump into tower control.
Tower control. Tower control. Let's
So,
bring
for
out
those of
the
you who
tower
don't know,
control.
we're
Hey,
gonna
that's a
spin
good
the
song.
wheel, and whatever it lands, that's
wait.
how we end the show.
Oh wait, Sour. We don't have poll of the week this week.
Oh, I guess we'll skip that one. I forgot.
Oh, what? You missed my
If
second.
it lands on that, no poll of the week.
Okay, I was gonna make one.
We spin it again.
It's gonna land on that.
I know it will. You watch.
It probably will.
I get that look. I mean, it was funny. I had it prepared.
Wait, what did it land on? I can't see.
You can't see.
Sweet and sour.
Oh, sweet and
Sweet
sour.
and
Oh,
sour. Thank
oh
you.
shit! It's right in the middle. My bad. Okay, so for sweet and sour, this is actually the first time it lands. It's basically I'm gonna provide with a topic,
Uh-oh.
and each of you will have 2 minutes to say something good and then something bad about that person. But
Person or
or
topic?
person or topic or whatever it
Oh.
is. Sorry.
Okay. All right.
And but the catch is the next person cannot repeat. So,
Uh-oh.
for example, if I say something good about whatever topic it is, the following person cannot say the same thing.
Aw.
So we're gonna start with. Should we start? Let's start with our guests. Yeah, let's start with our guests. And the sweet and sour topic for today will be Phil Spencer. I'll take it easy on Dutch. I won't leave him for last.
Sweet actually pays
So,
attention to where the gaming market goes, knows what he's talking about, and is a gamer. Sour needs to stop promising and not delivering.
Okay, all right, wonderful. Wonderful. All right. Silent. Something sweet, something sour.
Okay, something sweet. The man has impeccable clothing choices.
Come on.
That's sweet.
You can do better than
No,
that.
He does.
No, you see, you poo poo.
You're cheating the process. I'm gonna have to tweak it.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Because let's think about it, right? Like ever since that man started getting up on the stage when he took over, he has always been rocking shirts. Sometimes it has given us a glimpse into stuff that's coming. Just like his wall back there, right? He's utilized it a few times for some teasers. And it's always really, really good quality looking stuff. Like the dude is always dressed very fancy. If I could pull that off, if I were hip enough to actually look good in those type of clothes, I would. And I like what he's playing around with in regards to some of those teasers. Something sour.
Hmm. Hmm. Dutch pretty much
Oh,
nailed it. The sour part.
oh, dude. I did.
Dun, dun, dun,
That's
dun.
a hard one. Dang it. It's
Dun, dun, dun,
it's
dun. I'm gonna have
hard
to put a
because of
timer
course, like,
here. I gotta put a
yeah, I
timer.
know. Well, you said 2 minutes, right? So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
probably have like 30 seconds. Let me spin my wheels for a second.
Dude.
That makes it worse.
Oh Lord.
God,
Mm.
I just,
Sonic could come up with anything.
yeah, I failed that one.
Come on, Cypher. I thought Lou would be in this situation.
Me?
Dude, I mean, it's hard because like exactly like what you said, Dutch said similar stuff that I was thinking. I was like, yeah, quit over promising stuff, but that doesn't count because that was already done.
All right.
Okay, all right. So you're kind of. Come on, man. You lost. Okay, well, I would say for me personally, it's his focus into
Did I get skipped?
what?
Did I get skipped?
No, you're next. You're next.
What
We're
the heck?
leaving you for last. We're
Oh,
torturing you.
damn it.
So
What?
I would say his focus toward bringing game into everyone, even though some people right now are not happy with that. But I think that is long run. That's a good thing. Maybe he should have waited a little bit longer, because some people are maybe not ready for that yet. But I think long run that is a good thing, and he has been pushing it since he took over. And then for the sour part, I would say his I would say he's kind of a little bit soft in the term that, like, I feel like sometimes him as the leader of Xbox, he was handling the Xbox division. Now he's the whole Microsoft studio. Like, I feel there's decisions and things that he should be like more in, hand to hand. And I know it doesn't fall only on him, but at the end of the day, like, everyone's gonna go back to him because he's kind of like the face of Xbox. So
Hmm.
that would be my sour thing. Now,
Hmm.
what about you, Crazy? Are you ready? What is
Yes,
your
I'm
sweet and sour?
ready. What is my sweet thing? Hey, man. He got a nice smile.
Oh my god.
No. I knew you were going to say, oh my God. No. Let's go with this right now, man. He's sharp on what he wants, and he works really hard to get where he wants to get with this whole idea of gaming. I mean, he's a gamer. He plays. He also talks to you. It's weird that all these big guy companies can't be are not as humble as he is. He's a humble person. I mean, he talks to you. If you like on Twitter, he communicates with the fans, and not only that, if you go see him on Gamescom everywhere, he will talk to you. Seems like a nice fellow. The sour part is, damn it, Phil, fix the damn marketing. That's what you got to fix. That's the only sour thing I have about Phil Spencer. You got to fix that damn marketing. That's what you got to do. Fix that thing. Get that thing up in order. Jesus. Once he gets that thing up in order, man, we'll be doing good. We'll be doing
I think
good.
that's more of a Aaron Greenberg fault, but yeah.
He's the leader, though. Remember, if something happens, remember Redfall, they jumped him. Is it Phil fault? That's what happens. But he got to fix that marketing. He's got to sit down and do something better. Now, since he acquired Activision Blizz, I hope they actually do something way better. Those are my hopes. But yeah, sour.
Time to land the plane.
This land is plane. Man, what an awesome, great episode. My God, 2 hours and 16 minutes. Let's go. At least we did not hang for 3 hours that we did last week, which was fantastic, though. We had a lot of people last week. It was real fun, real fun. Loads of turbulence stuff,
It was
but real fun,
packed.
real fun. It was packed. It was packed. I mean, we couldn't get everybody to talk, but yeah, it was fun. It was fun. And I would like to thank the people for the gift memberships. I would like to thank them for the super chats. Chat, like always, you rock. You guys are awesome. You keep it rocking and rolling. Man, love you all to death. And let us start off right away with our awesome guest, which he came back to the show, Mr. Wandering Dutch. Thank you for joining us on this episode. Please, sir, please tell everybody where they can find you and also your channel.
Yeah, thanks for having us back. It's been a long time. Since the initial opening episodes, actually. I think it's been not far after that since I was on. But yeah, it's been awesome being back. Obviously, I was making up for not being able to hear last week, so I said, yeah, book is in for the next time. So yeah, it's been a blast being back again. But it's great to see you guys going strong. Over 100 episodes, so congratulations from me on that.
Thank
You're doing an awesome job, so keep up the great work. And yeah, you can find me everywhere at Wondering Dutch or Wondering Dutch X now on the Twitterverse. And yeah, I have my Final Fantasy VII Rebirth stream tomorrow. As much as I'd love to play it now, it's like 20 past 2 in the morning, so I can't jump in now. I've got to be up for work in like 4 hours. So,
Wow.
so yeah, I'm going to start my stream tomorrow with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and then podcast will return next week, and work continues on the next indie showcase. So
I was just about to ask you any updates on that when we're gonna see one.
yes, you will see that towards the tail end of April. I haven't got a definitive date in yet, but tail end of April this year, I'm going to work a little bit more closely with Sean Labrie to get some fancy stuff done.
Nice.
But of course, other than that, get some awesome developers involved. Some awesome ones that I've got Kickstarters on the way of as well that we're going to unveil, and of course, some things that you've never seen before. So yeah, it's underway. It's underway, and looking forward to showing it off when it's ready.
All right, awesome. Captain, are you still there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Captain. We
Okay.
know you got turbulence. You got a couple turbulence over there on your internet, but please, our sexy, handsome Captain, even though you're lagging like crazy, please tell everybody where they can find your handsome self, sir.
Am I lagging? Can you
Uh,
hear me?
Yeah,
Well,
we
you
can
just
hear you.
can't.
We can hear you. We can hear you. Just the camera's
Okay,
on.
I'll just
You're
turn off the
tackling into
camera.
the Speed Force, but we can hear you.
Sorry, guys. Well, Dutch, thanks again for coming to hang out with us. I know obviously time zones are a nightmare, so thanks for hanging out with us, even though it means you are going to be running low on fumes at work. Much appreciated. And yeah, it's been too long. We definitely need to have you on again sometime soon. Maybe right after we start seeing some more stuff this next game fest time, right around like June. That would be freaking awesome. Bring you on and see what you think of everything that ends up getting announced.
Yeah.
And yeah, and we need to play some games because it's been too long on that too.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much for coming to tolerate our shenanigans. And sorry that Comcast on my side failed the internet pass today. Apparently, it didn't live up to its quality name, Comcast. But anyways, in regards to where you can find me, you can of course find me on Twitter, social media in general as Silent Cypher. Playing around a little bit on some TikTok, working around on stuff with that. Working on getting some voice work stuff going. I've got a project, hopefully here in a couple months, that I can reveal when we get closer to it. And besides that, yeah, find me on Xbox and just in general, if you want to play some games or if you want to talk, I'm always around. I'm more than welcome to have a conversation. Um, yeah, chat. Thank you guys so much, and it's been awesome. We look forward to seeing you next week.
Cypher, I will say, Dutch does host indie developer showcase.
Mhm.
You might want to audition with a world premiere.
World premiere.
I'll
It's
send
your
you some
chance.
raw,
You
raw
missed your
files.
chance.
Well, I could, yeah. Exclusive world premiere.
Perfect.
No, why did you tell us, son? The true project is you're gonna do the voice over the Louis game. You're gonna be voicing over my
Oh
character.
my god.
Oh, no,
Wait,
the
why
budget's
wouldn't you
too-
do it if it's your game?
Oh, good question though.
You couldn't read the crayon writing. So,
Oh, here comes the bullying. Here
Oh,
comes the bullying.
man.
And speaking about the bullying, Sourblow, the biggest bully out there. Oh, poor crazy Lou. He's always nice to him. Please,
Stop.
everybody, where they can find you, sir.
You can find me here. You can find me Twitter, Xbox, Sourblow18. And you can find me Fridays sometimes with Elvio, Eternal Shaddai, ASCAP at Xbox International en Español. You know, speak Spanish or have a friend, send them over there. And same like this show, they talk gaming. They have a little different format. They do their own, thing, and they're great guys. So you'll follow them.
All right. And where can you find the crazy one? Simple and easy. You can find the crazy one on Twitter X at Crazy Louis Gaming, where I finally started my crazy videos. Yes, you can go watch. I did 2 today. And man, I'm tired, but either way, it was a lot of fun. And also, you can find me on Mondays at the Xbox Lunch Break Special for the Double Barrel Gaming YouTube channel with Mr. Boomstick, Mr. Fuzzy Bombardier, Mr. Oh, damn, that's a lot of people. Mr. Web Dave and Mr. Gamsley. And like always, here on Wednesdays, hanging out with these awesome, beautiful fellows on the Xbox International Podcast at 7 p.m. ET. That's where you can find the crazy one. Like I say, what's up?
I'm gonna clip this and I'm gonna send it to Boom.
Oh Lord, sorry about that. I started, man. I started. Sorry. But hey, man, I've been tired, been busy. But either way, like I always say, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and also hit that bell so it can tell you when XBI content comes on. And remember, let's go, let's rock, and time to go to the supermarket. Yes, see you all next Wednesday. Bye-bye. Yeah, I gotta do house chores. Yeah, sorry.
ladies and gentlemen, we've arrived at our destination. For your safety and comfort, please remain seated with your seatbelt fastened until the captain turns off this live stream. On behalf of Xbox International, I'd like to thank you for joining us on this trip, and we're looking forward to seeing you aboard next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.